you're obviously an enormous advertising business. How are you seeing the crisis impacting client demand? Does it change what your clients are looking for? Does it change what requirements they ask of you?
Yeah, well, clearly the most immediate concern we have, and especially with businesses that are more retail in nature, closer to Main Street, restaurants, retail, there was a significant need, immediate need to get off the air. For many of those clients, they said, hey, we need to get off the air, and how do we assess how we move forward as this pandemic descended upon us in such short order. So the first thing we had to do was be flexible with our clients of how do we provide a customer first approach in light of their marketing challenges, in light of their the sort of environment that they were having to deal with. So the first notion was, how do we provide a customer first approach, not hold clients and brands to cancellation windows? How do we really support their business in the immediate term? Then I think once that sort of washed over us and we were able to manage their business in the immediate term, then there was really a desire on the part of brands to understand how their audiences were consuming video and television content. And as you know, obviously this hit in March, and a significant number of sporting events were going on that were whether it was March Madness with the NCAA tournament, whether it was NHL, NBA, golf, all of those events and leagues were canceled. And so obviously we had a number of clients who were in those in that content. And so they were saying, okay, well, if I'm not running in the NHL or I'm not running in NCAA basketball, where can I find those audiences? And so, as you may be aware, we've got about a 40 million household set-top box data platform that we've stood up inside the organization. And we're able to tie viewership insights coming out of that data to suggest, well, when the NCAA college basketball viewer is not watching NCAA college basketball, where do you in fact find them? We can do the same with the NHL. We can do the same with NBA basketball. So the ability for us to provide insights driven off of the 40 million homes worth of set-top box data that we're able to pull together provided an environment for brands to re-express dollars in content that had was no longer on air. So that was, I think, a critical component of our sort of response to the brand marketplace. And then the idea is, and especially in the national arena, as we saw brands start to shift their creative from traditional brand messaging to really COVID focused, community-based messaging. How do brands help in this environment, and how are they responding to it? And whether it's a restaurant that's looking to do drive-through service, or insurance companies providing support, or auto manufacturers looking to waive lease payments for a period of time. As we started to see brands become more proactive in their creative strategy, the ability to support the re-expression of those dollars and a reinvestment in the marketplace. And so that's where we're at now. So I think if you were to look at it sort of in stages as this descended on it, the first was just sort of an immediate, I got to get off the air, let's protect the business, how do we respond to that? Then it was a sort of phase of, okay, now let's start to look at audience insights to think about how I can re-express dollars. And now I think we're into perhaps what will be a new norm for a period of time, sort of COVID-inspired messaging that deals with the new reality, and how can we support brands in a more proactive fashion moving forward. I think as you see the intersection of content and technology coming together, that environment puts the viewer, consumer, in control of how, where, and when they consume content. It's no longer the distributor in control. that you need to be home at Thursday at 10 o'clock to watch a particular program. The viewer's in control of that dynamic. And as a result, it's increasingly difficult for brands to find, follow, and measure audience engagement. It used to be a simple process for brands to put a signpost in primetime TV and they could expect the audiences to come to them. Now it's incumbent upon the brands to find and follow audiences. They have to chase those audiences down in this landscape in which the consumer's in control of their viewing. And so for us, we think as we think about the future of the business, how do we begin to think about new business models that support that dynamic where the consumer's in control, the viewer's in control? And for us, you know, it's predicated on this idea that the world is going to be driven by richer data, not dumber data. I'm not, again, suggesting that age gender disappears, but how do we begin to think about richer data to inform planning in ways beyond the traditional TV ecosystem's function in the past? So when we think about the pillars of our future, one of those key pillars is this drive to richer data. The second is this notion of our ability to deliver those audiences more precisely. And the precision of those audiences might be on a contextual basis. Do you find your audience in live sports? It might be on a geographic basis in certain parts of the country, or DMAs or clusters of zip codes. It might be by device. Do I find them most likely in VOD content, or do I find them on OTT inventory or live linear inventory? And ultimately down to an addressable capability. Do I find that audience on an addressable basis? And so this idea of precision as technology and content come together, we think the TV ecosystem is going to be driven by greater levels of precision. And then we also think that the marketplace is going to be driven by much more robust measurement from a campaign performance standpoint. No longer will we rely simply on cost per points and cost per thousand and traditional post-buy metrics. We think the ability to drive much deeper insights from both an efficiency standpoint against a rich audience definition, as well as from an effectiveness, brand outcome, ROI standpoint. So I think, John, when we think about the future of the business, we may not have a perfectly prescient crystal ball, but we do think that we recognize that the business is going to be driven by richer data, more precise delivery, and better measurement. And I think it's all, whether COVID or otherwise, it's all predicated on this notion that as margins compress and brands are asked to do more with less, we think that those publisher partners that provide the greatest level of data, the greatest flexibility in terms of precision, and the best measurement will prevail in the long run. Advertisers are being asked to do more with less, and those companies that we think on the media side that are most accountable around those threads are going to be those that prevail in the long run. And we think Ampersand is terrifically well positioned to support brands in that environment.